Good morning, this is Howie, and I'm here to help you win with money. If you haven't seen any of my previous episodes, what I try to do is explain a concept, demonstrate the math, and show you what the math means. And in this episode, I wanted to look at, is it easy for someone to become a millionaire in America? Investing requires a strategy, a game plan, discipline, and it requires you to have some patience. And if you do all that together, I do believe anyone can do this $1 at a time. So let's go. So we're going to start off with a baseline population. We don't need to be exact for this example, 330 million. Next step, let's figure out how many millionaires are there in the US. And here's an article. This one's on Dave Ramsey's site. And this is saying there is about 11 millionaires, 11 million millionaire households. Okay, then I Googled it again, and here's another one. This one is pretty good. This one is actually a little bit more specific and more detailed. So look at this. What are the percentage of Americans are millionaires? And here it gives you a really good number that's a little bit higher. And in this one, you can see the survey talks about households. So you can see this number matches what Dave Ramsey was saying. This one is individual. So we'll use this number right now. I plugged it in, and here's what I have so far. I'm assuming the numbers are right. I use another article here. This one has a little bit smaller number of millionaire households, but I'm going to try to use some of these numbers, and I'm using the number of households to be about 126 million is what I'm doing. But I am using the 11 million number, and that's what it will look like right now. Next thing I'm going to do is, for fun, I'm going to Google some careers. How many lawyers are there in the US? Total number of practicing lawyers. Here you go. I know the data is a little bit old, 2 years old. We'll round it up to maybe 1.4 million. So I plug that in. If there's 1.4 million people in the US out of the total population, that's your odds of becoming a lawyer. 0.4%. And for right now, I'm just assuming every lawyer in America is a millionaire. We know that's not a true statement, but it could be. Next, I want to see how many millionaires inherit their money. Here's one that suggests is 20% of millionaires inherit it. There's some other studies that suggest the number is around 10 or 12. So these are really hard to pinpoint the exact numbers. So back to the model. I'm going to create two line items. But for right now, I'm going to use 10%. But here's the numbers. I plugged it in. You can see I'm using formula. If 20% inherited, right, that means 1%. This is the percentage of inheriting out of the total population. If it's 10%, your chances are smaller. So we'll continue building this out. And a quick Google search says, here are practicing physicians in America. Here you go. I'm not going to get into this too much. I'm just going to round it up to about a million. And that's what it looks like right now. Again, there's 1 million active doctors right now in America. Out of the total population, that means this is your odds of being a doctor today, right? 0.3%, which makes sense. And I'm assuming all of those are millionaires today. And to save some time, I plugged in a few more rows here so you can see some numbers here. Let me update the formulas. So let's just go over real quick what this means. CEOs, there's about 200,000 active CEOs any given year, right? Most CEOs basically stay till they're retired. Now, sometimes you're forced out. So what I did was I use a factor. Let's assume that if there's 200,000 CEOs at any given year, there are about 600,000 of them that are still alive and are still millionaires. Okay? So again, some assumptions here. 401k brokerage account, Fidelity released a number saying there's about 400,000 accounts in their IRA or 401k plan that are millionaires. Now, there may be some overlap. Now, if you have a 401k plan, most likely you're not going to be somewhere in here. It could be, but most likely you're not. But an IRA could be. And so I know there's some overlap, but again, I want to show you what the odds are. If you want to be a Fidelity brokerage account 401k millionaire, here's your odds. And here's how many accounts. Pro athletes, 7,000 pro athletes per year, roughly. I just rounded it up. I'm using a big multiplier, right? Some athletes only do their sport for 3-4 years. They retire. Let's assume they're millionaires. Some Olympians are the same way, right? Your shelf life is real short. You do 1 or 2 Olympics, but you're still alive. And so let's count you as a millionaire. And then if you win a lottery ticket, some of you know what the mega balls or the Powerball odds are. They're 1 in 200 million. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I'd even use that number. I gave you a 1 in 5 million percentage chance of winning, and this is your odds of winning any lotto, right? Not just the big Powerball. There are some scratch-off tickets that pay 1 million, 5 million, or 10 million. So the odds of winning are a little bit lower. And let's just assume there's 50,000 people who are millionaires from lottery tickets alone, okay? But most go broke, but we're just going to assume it. So what I did was we added all up. And what does that mean? 9 million people came from these type of careers or these type of events, okay? Oh, I do have to update the math. Hang on a second. Sorry, I was double counting. I had to minus this 3.8 million because I was already counting it here, right? So I don't want to double count it. So that leaves 5 million people got their money from this way. So just to let you know, I grabbed some data from various sources, from the ultra high net worth ones right here. I read this one also. There's some data with some high net worth. And again, I just blended it all together, trying to get some good estimates of how many multimillionaires, high net worth individuals. And basically, I plugged it into the spreadsheet. And this is what it looks like, right? Ultra high net worth, it's much smaller to get in here, right? This makes sense. 5 million or more, the odds are really small. And same over here. Now, remember, these are just looking at odds. I'm treating this as a separate independent event. So you could be a doctor and have $5 million in asset, right? The odds are being a doctor is pretty small and falling in here are pretty small, but it is possible that it's one of the same, right? That individual could have fell into both a doctor with super high net worth, sort of that concept. But you don't need to multiply these percentages. These are independent events. I want to show you what are your chances. Assuming these numbers are right? Let's just use using 19 million millionaires, which means your odds are 6%. And really, that seems high, but we're going to use these numbers. But we also know that most people use households because if you're in a millionaire household, most likely, right, your kids, the spouse, or your partner, right, you use your combined net worth of your household. But the odds are fairly small still. It's not, again, 12 million households out of 126, 9%. And that will cover kids and again, partners and spouses. So the odds are fairly small, no matter how you look at it, whether you use this number or this number. So now I wanted to look at some other details. We all heard that real estate is probably the best investment in your life. So one of the things I wanted to do was Google the number of homes there are in America. I got this number here. Next thing I did was wanted to find out how many homes have no mortgages. So I Googled that. Next was I was trying to find out how many real estate investors are there in America. And this is not an easy number to get. There's one here that says 2 million. Earlier today I found something that says there's about 7 million or so. I'm trying to get a really good estimate here. So what do I do with all these numbers? 137 million homes in America, which makes sense. Not everyone, right, lives in a home by themselves. There's a household, so that would make sense. And then there's about 89 million people who own a home, which is about 65% of the population. The others are renters. Okay, so you subtract that out, you can figure out how many renters are there. And then from there, if you use the how many homes with no mortgages, about 35 to 37% is what we saw. So just did some basic math, and that's what you get. And then I want to look at, well, how many real estate investors are there? And no one really knows, 2 to 7 million people. So why do we care about homes in America? Well, because why isn't there 137 million millionaires? In fact, what if 89 million people own a home, why aren't most of these people rich? Right? This 89 million is much smaller than the total number of millionaires in America. And then, if you want to get even worse, this is what the data suggests, right? 35% of homes have no mortgages. So in this number, even all those people with no mortgages, they still haven't crossed into the millionaire number. Okay? And just for kicks and giggles or whatever you want to call it, if real estate was so easy, I would assume nearly more than half or 10% of them, I don't know what number it is, but if there's 2 million real estate investors or 7 million, then it's taking up, right, how people became millionaires. Now, let's just be clear, there's going to be some overlap. A doctor who's a millionaire will probably have a house, and so he's going to be counted in this number. A CEO who's a millionaire will own a house or two. And so pro athletes will own a house or two, right? So I get it. You want to treat this independently. But I wanted to address the issue of if real estate was so easy to make money, and there's so many homes in America, then this number doesn't lie. What we started with, whether you have 12 million or 19 million millionaires in America, and if homes are the easiest way to get there, then there should be a lot more. So that's the first problem. And so what I want to get to is, if all these other people are millionaires, and if you believe that people inherited and you start subtracting it out, it leaves you, there's only 14 other million ways, right? Or 14 million slots left of millionaires available. And so they had to come from somewhere. And we can tell it may be from the home, but it's not enough. What it tells you is even those who own their homes, there's a small percentage of those households or families or individuals who are millionaires. And so I believe real estate investors, it's the same concept. And this is probably the most popular one. What percentage of millionaires invest in real estate? 90%. Okay? So if this is a true statement, and it could be true, but what it means is I was a doctor first, I bought my house, became a millionaire, and then I bought 2 other homes, or 5 other homes, or 8 other homes, and I started renting out to other people. So what that tells you is, I did a video on this concept of not every homeowner is a millionaire. And so this concept of only a small pool of people win. And so even though everybody owns homes, it may only be this one person who owns 10 or 20 or 100 units of homes, right? Or doors or keys. And everybody else are still broke. And so everybody knows in math that skews the statistics to show that the average is a lot higher than it should be. So I do believe that 90% of millionaires could make their money, but not from real estate directly, right? I could have been an airline pilot, bought a house, and I'm a millionaire because I made $200,000 a year being a pilot, and I just happened to own a home, and then I bought my second home or third home or whatever it may be. And so there are many ways to look at this data point. Let's be cautious, right? We don't want to assume that owning real estate is bad. I don't think it's bad. But based on the pure numbers across all the homes in America, if owning a home was the easiest way to wealth, then we should have seen 30 million people. These with no mortgage should be millionaires. Or you would assume out of this pool, how come not half of them are millionaires? And so I get the argument. You're going to say, well, they own their home, but their house is worth $142,000. Or, well, I don't live in a big city and my house is only worth $250,000. So I understand that. And some of those are valid points, right? But when you look at this at a whole scope of the whole data set, right? Why are there not more? If the number of millionaires are so low, whether you use 12 million or 19 million, again, it is so low. So there's more. Let's add in stock brokerage accounts. Roughly 17 million. This is not counting people's 401k plans, 403bs, or TSA accounts, TSPs or other retirement or pension plans. We're just looking at people with standard brokerage account. 17 million people, right? Are most of these millionaire? Well, if you look at the numbers, it is very possible that every millionaire is a person who owns a home and owns a brokerage account. And so what that tells you is if you're not a millionaire, it doesn't mean by you having a brokerage account or you owning a home, it will make you a millionaire. What it shows you is the odds are much, much harder than you think. But I wanted to show this to give a perspective. Because most people think, well, if everybody just opens a trading account, let me day trade, let me penny stock my way to millionaire status. Let me join a master class. Well, the failure rate on trading is pretty high. Whether you agree with it or not, a lot of studies suggest it's higher than you think. And here you go. You can Google it. This one suggests it's 90% fail. I was conservative. I use 80%. Okay? Statistics says 80% lose, break even, make money, whatever. You can read this on your own. There's studies done. I'm not a big fan of, again, you can pick and choose your statistics. I understand that. But it's interesting. Look, here's another one, right? Whatever the right number is. I don't even care if you put that number at 50 or 60%. If the odds are always against you, right? If it's less than half, if it's always less than half, look at this one, options trading. This one is saying it's 90%. My spreadsheet, I just assume is 80. I'm not going to argue. I don't want to argue here. I just want you to see this. If it was so easy, why don't we have more millionaires in America? And so I think there's just a lot of hype, a lot of scammers. They want you to buy the master class. People lose more money than you think. And there are always outliers, right? Whether it's 5 or 10%, no matter what method you're talking about, there's going to be some outliers who will do well. Pro athletes who make millions or even billions are the outliers, right? LeBron James may be the outlier. Magic Johnson may be the outlier. These guys will have billions because they invested in assets to create more wealth. While other pro athletes who made millions go broke 10 years later. And so we got to think through the numbers. But most important thing I want to show you is I'm not here to decide what's good or bad. I'm going to use, let's just assume it's 6%. You have a 6% chance of making it, right? Regardless of which method you use. You can use real estate. You can day trade your way there. You can be a doctor, a CEO, or a combination of all these things. The odds are, this is just out of the total population, the odds are pretty much stacked against you. So really what I want to look at is, what are you doing differently to improve your chances? How are you doing on your journey to becoming a millionaire? Do you have a system or a method that will work? You can track your progress. I'm not saying this is impossible. In fact, I still teach that the average Joe can do this. I'm a big fan of the FIRE movement, FIRE. We track it on a spreadsheet. They know literally what year they will hit retirement status or sort of their magic number, right? So they have a goal, they have a system, it works. It is possible. to do this. And it doesn't even matter what career you have. That's the beauty of what other people teach. They don't use fancy trading methods. They teach a simple, you can index your way to be a millionaire. And that doesn't sound very sexy. It sounds boring actually when you say, oh, I just index my way, buy and hold, reinvest the dividends, dollar cost average, keep on buying. FIRE teaches a high saving rate. It's a different method, and again, it works. But I'm not here to push one method over the other. I like trading. I like stock market. I like real estate. I like a little bit of everything. I even like Bitcoins. I like insurance. I like infinite banking concepts. So I like a lot of different things. Doesn't mean that the one way is better than the other. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Exposed by Math. Hopefully what you got away from this is, yes, being a millionaire is a small minority, but you can do it. But I wanted to show you what you're faced up against. Stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more episodes in the future. Make sure you like, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to cover a lot more stuff in the future. I hope that we can do this together. Let's do this journey together. We'll do it $1 at a time. We'll cover a lot more topics than just my options trading. We'll cover a little bit more in the future as I make them. But thank you again, and hopefully you'll have a profitable day.